My fiancé dumped me months before our wedding because his mom said I wasn't good enough for him. My world, which had been a whirlwind of wedding planning and joyful anticipation, came crashing down in an instant. It wasn't a mutual decision, or even a fight about our relationship. It was a brutal, blindsiding rejection, delivered just weeks before I was supposed to walk down the aisle, the sole reason being his mother's cruel judgment. My name is Chloe, and I was deeply in love with my fiancé, Ethan. We had been together for 4 years and engaged for 1. Ethan was kind, loving, and I genuinely believed he was my soulmate. We had built a wonderful life together, supporting each other's dreams and navigating life's challenges as a team. Wedding planning was in full swing. The venue booked, the dress bought, invitations about to be sent. I was excited, nervous, and utterly happy about marrying the man I loved. Ethan's mother, Eleanor, was a presence. She was a woman of strong opinions and high expectations, particularly for her son. While she was always polite to me, there was a coolness, a subtle air of assessment that made me feel slightly on edge around her. Ethan often spoke about how important his mother's opinion was to him, how much he respected her. I knew they were close, but I never imagined her influence extended to dictating his choice of a life partner. We were just under 3 months away from the wedding. Most of the major details were finalized. I was buzzing with excitement, counting down the days. Ethan seemed excited too, though perhaps a little preoccupied in the days leading up to that conversation. I attributed it to wedding stress. The day it happened, we were at his apartment. We had just finished reviewing the seating chart for the reception, a mundane task that felt significant as it brought the reality of the wedding even closer. I was feeling happy and content, nestled beside him on the couch, talking about honeymoon plans. Then, he went quiet. The shift was sudden and palpable. His usual easygoing demeanor vanished, replaced by a nervous tension I didn't understand. He wouldn't meet my eyes. "Ethan, are you okay?" I asked, my voice laced with concern. "You seem miles away." He took a deep breath, a shaky one, and finally looked at me. His eyes were filled with a mixture of sadness and what looked like genuine pain, but also a strange, unsettling resolve. "Chloe," he began, his voice low and unsteady. We need to talk." My heart sank. That phrase, "It's never good." I sat up straighter, my mind racing through possibilities. Had I done something wrong? Was he getting cold feet about the wedding? He wouldn't let go of my hand, but his grip was tight, almost painful. He looked down at our joined hands, then back up at me, and the words he spoke next were not at all what I expected, shattering my world into a million pieces. Ethan's grip on my hand tightened, almost painfully. His gaze was fixed on me, a look of anguish in his eyes that twisted my stomach into knots. My heart hammered against my ribs, anticipating something bad, but nothing could have prepared me for his next words. "Chloe," he said again, his voice barely above a whisper. I can't marry you." The world tilted. My breath caught in my throat. "What? Ethan, what are you talking about? Can't marry me? Why?" He finally let go of my hand, running both hands through his hair, looking tormented. I can't do it. I'm sorry. The wedding, it's off." "Off?" My voice was incredulous. "Just like that? 3 months away? Why? What happened? Is this about the seating chart? Are you stressed? We can fix anything, just tell me." Shook his head, not meeting my eyes. "It's not about the seating chart. It's not about stress. Not really." He paused, taking another deep, shaky breath. "It's about my mom. My blood ran cold. Your mom? What does your mom have to do with us getting married? He looked up then, his eyes full of pain, but also a strange, unsettling resignation. She doesn't think you're right for me, Chloe. Doesn't think I'm right for you? I repeated, utterly bewildered. Ethan, we're engaged. We're getting married in 3 months. We've been together for 4 years. What does she mean I'm not right for you? He swallowed hard, the words coming out in a rush, as if he just wanted to get them over with. She said you're not good enough for me, that you don't fit into our family, that you don't understand my world, my ambitions, that you'll hold me back. The words hit me like a physical blow. My fiancé, the man I was about to marry, was dumping me, ending our 4-year relationship and canceling our wedding because his mother said I wasn't good enough for him. It was so absurd, so cruel. I struggled to even comprehend it. She said, "What?" I stammered, feeling faint. "And you're just listening to her? Ethan, this is our life. Our marriage, not hers. How can you just throw away everything because of what your mother thinks?" He looked down again, avoiding my gaze. She sees things clearly, Chloe. She wants what's best for me. She's right. I realize she's right. You're not the right person for me, for my future. His justification, that he had realized she's right, was devastatingly weak. It wasn't his conviction. It was his mother's opinion he had seemingly adopted as his own. It felt like a complete abdication of his will, his love, his commitment, to me. Tears streamed down my face now, hot and heavy. "So that's it? Months before the wedding? Because your mom doesn't approve?" My voice was thick with pain and disbelief. He nodded, his face a mask of misery. "I'm sorry, Chloe. I really am. But I can't do this." The man I loved was sitting before me, ending our relationship, canceling our wedding, and offering his mother's disapproval as the sole, sufficient reason. My future, the wedding dress hanging in my closet, the invitations waiting to be sent, all of it felt like a cruel joke. I was dumped, months before my wedding, for the most heartbreakingly pathetic reason imaginable. His mother didn't think I was good enough. Ethan's words hung in the air, impossible and devastating. She's right. You're not the right person for me, for my future. My mind reeled, struggling to catch up with the reality he had just brutally created. Tears streamed, down my face, silent at first, then turning into quiet sobs. You can't be serious," I whispered, reaching for him, needing to make him see the absurdity, the cruelty of what he was doing. "Ethan, look at me. This is us, our life, our wedding. Because your mom said—" He flinched away from my touch, standing up from the couch. He wouldn't meet my eyes. He just looked around his apartment, the apartment we had spent so much time in, the apartment where we had planned our future. "I'm sorry, Chloe," he repeated, his voice flat now. "It's over. There's nothing more to say." "Nothing more to say?" My voice rose, filled with disbelief and pain. "You're ending our engagement, our relationship, our future, 3 months before the wedding, because your mother doesn't like me, and there's nothing more to say?" He walked towards the door, not packing anything, just leaving the room. "My lawyer will be in touch about the wedding costs. I'll figure out getting my things later." And then he was gone, out of the living room, towards the front door of his own apartment. He didn't look back. He didn't offer comfort. He just left me sitting there, in his apartment, surrounded by the remnants of our shared life and the wreckage of our wedding plans. The apartment felt suddenly vast and cold. On the coffee table lay the seating chart we had just finalized, a cruel reminder of the future that would never happen. Beside it was a wedding magazine, pages marked with ideas. The sudden silence after the door clicked shut was deafening, amplifying the sound of my own broken heart. I stayed there for a long time, unable to move, the tears now coming in racking sobs. How could this happen? How could the man I loved, the man who had promised to spend his life with me, just leave? Because his mother didn't think I was good enough? The reason was so unbelievable, so utterly pathetic, it added a layer of bewildered anger to my pain. It wasn't about us. It was about him being unable to stand up to his mother, choosing her opinion over his own love and commitment. Eventually, shaking and numb, I fumbled for my phone. I needed to tell someone. My sister, Sarah, was the first person who came to mind. Calling her, the words felt surreal as I spoke them out loud. Sarah. Ethan he broke up with me. Her immediate reaction was shock. What? Why? What happened? Then I had to tell her the reason. He said his mom told him I wasn't good enough for him, and he agreed with her. There was a stunned silence on the other end of the line. Then, outrage. He did what? He dumped you because his mom doesn't like you? Months before the wedding? Chloe, that's unbelievable. What kind of man does that? Her fierce, immediate validation was a lifeline. She didn't try to rationalize it. She just expressed the same disbelief and anger I felt. She insisted on coming over immediately, or having me come to her place. I couldn't bear to stay in Ethan's apartment a moment longer, surrounded by the painful reminders. Leaving his apartment, carrying nothing but my purse and the weight of a shattered future, was one of the hardest things I've ever done. Arriving at Sarah's place, collapsing into her arms, I began the agonizing process of processing the unbelievable truth. My wedding was off. My future was gone. And the reason was an insult delivered not by the man I loved, but by his mother, an insult he had then adopted as his own. The pain was immense, the confusion overwhelming, and the daunting task of unraveling a wedding and a life that had just been ripped away loomed ahead. Arriving at my sister Sarah's apartment felt like reaching a safe harbor in a storm. I collapsed onto her couch, the tears continuing to flow, the shock still making it hard to breathe. Sarah just held me, letting me cry, her presence a quiet comfort in the face of the unimaginable. Eventually, the tears subsided, leaving behind a raw, aching emptiness. We sat there, slowly piecing together the events, rehashing the unbelievable reason for the breakup. His mom said I wasn't good enough, I repeated, the words still sounding absurd. And he just agreed, like her opinion was the final word on our entire relationship. The immediate, terrifying reality was the wedding, 3 months away. Vendors booked, deposits paid, invitations designed and almost ready to mail. The sheer logistics of unraveling everything felt monumental, impossible to face when I could barely string a sentence together. We'll figure it out, Chloe, Sarah said, rubbing my back. One step at a time. First, you just need to breathe. The rest can wait. But the rest felt like it was pressing down on me. The humiliation was immense. Having to tell everyone, friends, family, colleagues, that the wedding was off, not because of a major fight or a mutual decision, but because my almost husband dumped me because his mom didn't approve. The thought of the gossip, the pity, the awkward questions made me cringe. It felt like a public failure, a confirmation of his mother's cruel judgment that I wasn't worthy. We talked about Ethan, about his relationship with his mother. Was he always like this? A mama's boy who couldn't make his own decisions? Looking back, I saw instances where his mother's opinion held undue weight, where he seemed hesitant to go against her wishes. But I had never imagined it would extend to this. I thought our love, our commitment, was stronger than any external influence, even his mother's. It hurt, deeply, to realize how wrong I had been. It wasn't just his mother's cruelty. It was Ethan's weakness, his inability to prioritize our relationship over her disapproval. The picture of Eleanor, Ethan's mother, started to sharpen in my mind. Her polite but cool demeanor, the subtle questions about my background, the way she always seemed to be assessing me. Was this something she had been planning? Had she been actively trying to undermine our relationship all along? The thought added a layer of dark suspicion to my pain. In a moment of desperate pain and confusion, needing a real explanation, I sent Ethan a text. Not pleading, but demanding to understand how he could do this, how he could abandon me and our future for such a reason. His response, which came hours later, was brief and cold. "It's done, Chloe. There's nothing more to say. My lawyer will be in touch about the wedding arrangements." No remorse, no real explanation, just a final, dismissive wall. His lack of empathy, his complete emotional detachment, solidified the reality of the breakup. He was gone. And the reason was as flimsy as it was cruel. Left with the wreckage of my shattered heart and the daunting task of unraveling a wedding that symbolized a future that would never be, I sank deeper into the painful realization that the man I loved had chosen his mother's opinion over me, proving her right in the most devastating way possible. Not about my worth, but about his inability to be the partner I thought he was. The days following the breakup were a blur of pain and the grim reality of having to unravel a wedding. My sister Sarah stayed by my side, helping me face the daunting task of contacting vendors. Each phone call felt like a fresh stab in the heart, a required recitation of the death of my future. Calling the venue coordinator, the caterer, the florist, the photographer. It was emotionally exhausting. I had to explain, over and over, that the wedding was off. Most vendors were professional and sympathetic, having undoubtedly dealt with canceled weddings before, but discussing deposits, contracts, and cancellation fees added a layer of stressful practicality to my emotional turmoil. Some deposits were non-refundable, a financial consequence of Ethan's abrupt decision. The money lost was just another painful reminder of the ruined plans. Then came the even more difficult task, telling the guests. We had just finalized the invitation list. Now, instead of joyful announcements, I had to deliver the news of the cancellation. Sarah helped me draft a simple message. Due to unforeseen circumstances, the wedding has been canceled. We apologize for any inconvenience. Sending it out felt like sending a wave of disappointment and awkwardness into the world. The reactions from friends and family ranged from shocked concern to outrage when they learned the reason, which I shared with those closest to me. Because his mom said was a common, disbelieving response. Their anger on my behalf was validating, but having to explain it, seeing their pity or confusion, added to the humiliation. It felt like everyone now knew the incredibly weak and frankly embarrassing reason why I wasn't getting married. My wedding dress hung in my closet, a beautiful, heartbreaking symbol of the future that would never be. The wedding favors I had started to assemble, the planning binder filled with dreams and details. All of it was now painful evidence of a life that had been snatched away. With Sarah's help, I eventually boxed up everything wedding-related, tucking the painful reminders out of sight, though certainly not out of mind. Amidst the practical nightmare, waves of emotion crashed over me. Sadness for the loss of the relationship, the future, the man I thought Ethan was. Anger at Ethan for his weakness, for not fighting for us, for prioritizing his mother's cruel opinion over our love. Anger at Eleanor, his mother, for her interference, her judgment, her role in destroying my happiness. The humiliation of the reason was a constant burning ember. But through the tears and the difficult tasks, a sense of determination began to emerge. Fueled by the anger towards Ethan and his mother, I knew I couldn't stay in this state of devastated inaction forever. I had to get through this. I had to unravel the wedding, piece by painful piece, and then I had to figure out how to rebuild my life. The path ahead seemed daunting, but the process of actively canceling the wedding, of facing the painful reality head-on, was a necessary step towards eventually healing and moving forward. The wedding was gone, but I was still here, and I would find a way to survive this double betrayal. The weeks that followed the initial shock and the painful process of canceling the wedding were a period of slow, arduous emotional recovery. The acute pain of being dumped gradually settled into a heavy, persistent ache, often punctuated by waves of anger. Anger at Ethan for his weakness, anger at his mother for her cruelty, and anger at the sheer injustice of it all. I leaned heavily on my sister, Sarah, and my closest friends. Their unwavering support was my lifeline. Talking about what happened, over and over, helped me process the shock and the unbelievable reason behind it. Therapy also became an essential part of my healing journey. It provided a safe space to explore the complex emotions, the shattered trust, and the impact of being told you're not good enough by someone so closely connected to the man you loved. Through therapy and conversations with those who cared about me, I began to understand Ethan's actions not as a reflection of my worth, but as a reflection of his character and the unhealthy dynamic with his mother. His inability to stand up for our relationship, to choose me over his mother's prejudiced opinion, revealed a fundamental weakness in him that I had been blind to. The pain of the breakup was still immense, but it was slowly being tempered by the realization that I deserved a partner who would stand by my side, not abandon me at his mother's behest. Eleanor, his mother, became the antagonist in my narrative. I saw her cool politeness now as veiled disapproval, her high expectations as a desire for control over her son's life. While I still didn't fully understand the depth of her opposition, was it about my background, my career, or just a need to maintain control over Ethan? It became clear that she was a manipulative force who had actively worked to undermine my relationship with her son. The anger towards her felt like a clean, sharp emotion compared to the messy pain of heartbreak. The physical reminders of Ethan and our relationship were everywhere. Packing away his things from my apartment felt like a final, painful severing. Avoiding places we used to frequent together required conscious effort. Social media was a minefield of memories and potential sightings. It was a constant process of creating distance, both physically and emotionally, from the life I had expected to live. Rebuilding my identity was crucial. For 4 years, and especially during the engagement, a significant part of my identity had been tied to being Ethan's partner, his fiancé. Now, I was just Chloe again, but a different Chloe, one who had been through a devastating public breakup for a humiliating reason. I focused on my career, putting extra energy into my work. I reconnected with hobbies I had let slide. I started saying yes to social invitations again, even when I didn't feel like it, pushing myself back into the world. Slowly, tentatively, I began to feel moments of genuine happiness again. A funny conversation with a friend, a successful day at work, a quiet evening enjoying my own company. These moments felt like small victories. The pain was still present, a scar that might always be there, but it no longer paralyzed me. I was actively engaged in the process of healing and rebuilding, piece by painful piece. I was finding strength I didn't know I had, a resilience born from heartbreak. The wedding was off. The future I had planned was gone, and the reason for it was still unbelievable. But I was surviving, and I was determined to build a new future for myself, one that was entirely my own, free from anyone else's judgment or control. Several months had passed since the raw intensity of the breakup and the difficult process of canceling the wedding. The initial shock and overwhelming pain had subsided, leaving behind a quieter, more manageable ache. My life wasn't defined by the ruined wedding anymore. It was defined by the steady, deliberate steps I was taking to rebuild it. Therapy, my supportive sister and friends, and a fierce determination had become my compass. A significant part of my healing was actively Dismantling the cruel judgment that I wasn't good enough, I focused on proving it to myself, not to Ethan or his mother. I set new goals at work and pushed myself to achieve them, finding validation in my capabilities. I dedicated time to hobbies I loved, rediscovering the simple joy of creating things and challenging myself. I surrounded myself with people who saw my worth, who celebrated my successes, and whose love was unconditional. I journaled regularly, turning the anger and pain into words on a page, giving them less power over me. Slowly, I began to internalize the truth. My worth was not, and had never been, dependent on Ethan's mother's approval or Ethan's weak decision. Then, one afternoon, while picking up coffee near my office, I saw him. Ethan. He was alone, waiting, in line. My heart gave a small, involuntary jolt, a faint echo of the past pain, but it quickly faded. He looked tired, his shoulders slumped. He wasn't the confident, happy man I remembered. He turned slightly, and his eyes landed on me. His expression shifted from neutral to surprised, then quickly to awkwardness and a hint of guilt. For a moment, he just stared, perhaps not expecting to see me, or not expecting to see me looking. Okay. I didn't hide. I didn't run. I simply offered a small, polite nod, acknowledging his presence without invitation or warmth. I didn't feel the need to confront him, to demand answers, or to express my pain. All of that felt like it belonged to a different time, a different version of myself. He took a hesitant step towards me. Chloe? Hi. His voice was quiet, unsure. Ethan, I replied calmly, keeping my voice even. He shifted his weight, looking uncomfortable. I haven't seen you around. No, I agreed. I guess not. There was an awkward silence. He seemed like he wanted to say more, perhaps offer an apology or some weak explanation, but the words didn't come. And I didn't prompt him. There was nothing he could say that would change what happened, or erase the pain, or justify the reason. His silence, his awkwardness, spoke volumes about his own guilt and lack of resolution. Well, I said, stepping slightly aside as the line moved. It was good to see you, Ethan. I need to get back. It wasn't truly good to see him, but it was a polite, definitive end to the brief interaction. He nodded, a look of lingering regret on his face. Okay. Yeah. Take care, Chloe. You too. I got my coffee, my hand steady. Walking away, a sense of quiet triumph settled over me. Seeing him hadn't shattered me. His presence hadn't sent me spiraling. He was just a man I used to know. A man who had made a choice that revealed his character. A choice that ultimately led me to a stronger, more independent place. The encounter reinforced my healing and the rightness of my path. I was no longer the woman whose wedding was canceled because she wasn't good enough in someone else's eyes. I was a woman who had faced devastating heartbreak and emerged stronger. I was independent, confident, and no longer needed external validation to know my worth. The future stretched ahead, no longer filled with the plans I had made with Ethan, but with possibilities I would create for myself, on my own terms. More than a year has passed since that awkward, brief encounter with Ethan at the cafe. The pain from the breakup and the humiliation of the reason have faded significantly, becoming a dull ache that occasionally resurfaces, a scar from a wound that has long since healed. The experience no longer defines me, but it fundamentally changed me, forging a resilience I didn't know I possessed. That period of my life, from the shock of being dumped to the difficult process of canceling a wedding and navigating the emotional aftermath, was the hardest thing I've ever gone through. Being told I wasn't good enough, and seeing the man I loved agree with that assessment based on his mother's opinion, cut deep. But through the pain, the therapy, and the unwavering support of my family and friends, I learned invaluable lessons. I learned that my worth is inherent. It is not determined by a fiancé's weakness or his mother's cruel judgment. I learned the critical importance of having a partner who stands up for you, who chooses you unequivocally, regardless of external pressure or familial disapproval. I learned that true strength lies not in avoiding conflict, but in facing it head-on and staying true to yourself. I also gained a clearer understanding of people like Eleanor, those whose need for control and adherence to outdated standards can inflict immense pain on others. Her issues were her own, a reflection of her character, not mine. Today, my life is rich and fulfilling, built on a foundation of self-respect and independence. I've excelled in my career, finding confidence and validation in my professional achievements. My relationships with my family and friends are deeper and more meaningful, based on a trust that has been tested and proven true. I've rediscovered passions and interests, building a life filled with joy and purpose that has nothing to do with being someone's fiancé or wife. The woman who was planning her wedding, blissfully unaware of the storm gathering, and the woman who sank to the floor in devastated sobs after being dumped, feel like past versions of myself. I carry their experiences, the lessons they learned, but I am stronger, wiser, and more confident. I occasionally hear through the grapevine about Ethan, sometimes about his mother. The details are sparse, and they hold no emotional weight for me anymore. Their decision, their judgment, was their loss. They chose a narrow, prejudiced path, while I chose one of healing, growth, and self-acceptance. I haven't rushed into dating, choosing to focus on building my own happiness first. But I am open to the possibility of love again, whenever and however it may come. I know what I deserve, and I won't settle for anything less than a partner who sees my worth, loves me for who I am, and stands with me, not behind his mother's apron strings. My future is bright, filled with possibilities, and I am excited to continue building a life that is authentically mine, a life that is, without question, more than good enough.